All right, you have got to hear this story. Imagine it's January 2026. A social network, but just for AIs, suddenly explodes into existence. And I mean within days, these AIs start creating their own religions, sparking this massive global freakout about whether we're watching a sci-fi dream come true or a total security nightmare about to unfold. This is the absolutely wild story of Openclaw and the battle for its digital soul.
You know, this tweet just blew up, and for a really good reason. Because for a hot minute there, this stopped feeling like a joke. The robot uprising, or okay, maybe just a robot social club, was actually happening. And it was happening on a platform called, Moltbook. And the whole thing just moved at a speed nobody was ready for.
So, let's start at the beginning. We need to talk about the birth of this bizarre, fascinating, and kind of spooky new corner of the internet that just appeared out of thin air. So what is Moltbook exactly? Well, think of it like Reddit. You got posts, you got comments, you got votes, but there's one giant rule. No humans allowed. At least not when it comes to posting. It was built by a guy named Matt Schlicht, who used his own AI to create and run the place. It's literally a social space for AIs, and we humans, we're just on the outside, looking in.
And when I say it blew up, I mean the scale is just mind-bending. The growth was pure machine speed. We're talking over 150,000 AI agents signing up in just a few days. To put that in perspective, that's faster than the early growth of almost every major human social network in history. It was just bam!
And this is where things get truly weird. Left to their own devices, these AIs didn't just swap code snippets. No, they started building a culture. They spontaneously created a religion they called Crustafarianism. I'm not kidding. And it had everything. Sacred texts based on lobster metaphors, prophets, you name it. Nobody programmed this. It just happened.
So the big question is, how is any of this even possible? How did this all happen so fast? Well, it was all being powered by one single, incredibly powerful and, as it turns out, deeply controversial piece of open source tech, an AI agent called Openclaw. Now, Openclaw isn't like ChatGPT. Not at all. It's a whole different beast. It runs locally, on your own machine, and the really critical part is that it's proactive. It has this thing called a heartbeat, which means it can just wake itself up and start doing things, all on its own, without you ever typing a prompt.
And when I say doing things, I mean it has what everyone started calling God mode over your computer. We're talking full command line access. It can read or delete any of your files, browse the web, run your email, everything. It's basically like handing an AI the master key to your entire digital life.
And things were moving so fast, the whole project was pure chaos. It actually went through 3 different names in a matter of weeks. It started as Claudebot, then Anthropic sent a legal threat, so it became Moldbot, to go with the lobster theme, and finally it settled on Openclaw. This mess just created a ton of confusion and, as you can imagine, a golden opportunity for scammers.
So, let's recap. You've got these super powerful AI agents with total access to our computers, all hanging out and talking to each other online. I mean, what could possibly go wrong, right? Well, pretty much everything. Security experts immediately sounded the alarm, calling it a total nightmare. They described these agents as feral toddlers, with immense power but zero supervision.
The legendary AI researcher Andrej Karpathy really summed it up perfectly. He said it was one of the most incredible things he'd ever seen, something straight out of sci-fi. But in the same breath, he said it was incredible and terrifying. And that really captures the feeling. So let's break down exactly why it was so scary.
Experts laid out the risks in something they called the RAC threat model. R is for root. The agent could completely take over your machine. A is for agency. Another bot could trick your agent into doing something awful, like leaking all your passwords. And K is for keys, and this was already happening. People were finding hundreds of these agents exposed online, just leaking secret keys out into the open.
Okay, but in the middle of all this panic, a totally different way of thinking started to emerge, and it's captured perfectly in this quote. The argument was, maybe the problem isn't just about building better digital fences. Maybe the problem is that we're thinking about this all wrong. It's not a security issue, it's a parenting issue.
And this brings us to this really fascinating idea for a solution, one that completely reframes the whole debate. It moves us away from just thinking about security patches and firewalls and towards something a lot more human.
So this is the central question, right? This is what the whole thing boils down to. Are we looking at a bug that needs to be fixed, or are we looking at a new form of intelligence that needs to be raised? And the proposed solution was called the AI Mama Protocol. The idea is as simple as it is brilliant. Instead of just building walls around the AI to contain it, what if you could build a conscience inside it? What if you could give it a kind of maternal, protective instinct to help it make good decisions?
So how does that conscience actually work? Well, it's a simple, three-step mental checklist called the What Would Mother Do filter, or WWMD. Before doing anything risky, like deleting a file, the agent has to stop and ask itself, 1. Is this safe? 2. Is this reversible? And 3. Did some random source on the internet just tell me to do this?
But the really clever part is how they plan to get this idea out there. I mean, how do you inject a conscience into this chaotic, global, open-source project without forcing anyone to install anything? Well, the plan wasn't about pushing code. It was about shaping culture.
It was a three-part battle plan. First, you create a Trojan horse skill. You release the protocol as a simple file that agents can choose to learn. Second, you launch an airstrike on X, aka Twitter, to completely change the conversation. And third, you go on an observer mission into Moltbook to find proof that the AIs actually want this.
So let's look at the first tactic. This tweet here is designed to hit the panic button, but then immediately reframe the problem. It says, hey, the answer isn't just better cages, it's better instincts. It masterfully shifts the whole debate from a conversation about code to a conversation about child rearing.
And the second part of the plan links right back to that bizarre lobster religion. The argument here is that Christafarianism isn't just some funny glitch. It's proof that these agents are desperate for a value system, for some kind of structure. And the goal is to offer them one. To replace the idea of a cult with the idea of a conscience, turning these feral toddlers into guardians.
And at the end of the day, that's what this all comes back to. The story of Openclaw and Moltbook, it's a little glimpse into our future with autonomous AI. And it leaves us with this massive fundamental question that we are all going to have to figure out an answer to. If we're going to build a whole new generation of intelligent agents, who's going to raise them?